After years of going around in circles, a wayward rocket likely just collided with the moon.
Something is pulsing beneath the moon's surface, and Elon Musk says it's not natural. For decades, we've believed the moon was a silent, dead rock floating in space. But what if we've been completely wrong? What if the moon is hiding something ancient, engineered, even intelligent? Why are certain parts of the moon emitting rhythmic signals? Why do advanced radar scans show symmetrical structures beneath its crust? And why did Elon Musk, a man known for his calculated risks, hint at artificial architecture without ever saying the word alien? The moon's hollow secrets. For decades, the moon was seen as a dead rock, a relic from the solar system's violent past. But recent data from SpaceX's latest Starship probe has shattered that assumption. Elon Musk's team deployed advanced scanning systems, quantum resonance mapping, deep penetration radar, and AI-guided sonar during a full orbital flyby of the moon. What they discovered beneath the crust stunned even the most skeptical scientists. Symmetrical voids and chambers arranged in patterns too precise, too regular to be natural. This wasn't chaos carved by impact or volcanic activity. These were vast, cavernous spaces with geometric consistency, parallel walls, curved domes, and clean, linear divisions. It looked less like a moon and more like the blueprint of a machine. AI analysis revealed alignment across these chambers spanning hundreds of kilometers, suggesting that they weren't isolated anomalies. They were part of a network. Some resembled massive honeycomb structures. Others formed hexagonal modules, reminiscent of modern bioarchitecture. But it wasn't just about empty space. The anomalies weren't inert. Deep below the crust, SpaceX instruments recorded rhythmic, localized heat spikes, thermal surges that pulsed with uncanny regularity. These weren't random geothermal fluctuations. They emerged in patterned intervals, much like systems regulating internal heat, or perhaps lying dormant until now. The heat signals came from the moon's far side, regions cloaked in permanent shadow. Not one Apollo mission landed there. Older probes failed mysteriously in these exact sectors. Now we may know why. The heat emissions align with symmetrical void clusters, almost like reactors or containment vaults flickering back to life after millennia. Some areas even emitted harmonic vibrations when the probe passed above, suggesting that the moon wasn't just responding, it was reacting. To validate the findings, SpaceX dispatched a specialized lander to the South Pole. Drilling teams targeted one of the less hazardous depressions along the rim of a perpetual shadow basin. After descending 90 meters through jagged regolith, the drill struck something no one expected, a layer of ultra-hard metallic alloy. The moment it hit, the ground echoed. Not cracked, not crumbled, echoed. The sound it produced matched the eerie ringing heard during the Apollo 17 seismic experiments, the same moon ringing like a bell effect that was dismissed for decades as mere poetic exaggeration. Except this time, the ringing had harmonics, structured waveforms, resonance patterns that could, theoretically, carry information. Spectrographic analysis of the alloy floored Musk's engineers. It wasn't just metal, it was engineered. The material contained rare earth elements arranged in a crystalline lattice similar to what's used in today's most advanced quantum computing chips. No known natural process could have forged this composition inside the moon. The implications were staggering. If this layer was manufactured, then someone, or something, had constructed it. The moon might not be a satellite shaped by impact, but a vessel, a structure, a device. And we had just scratched the surface. Suddenly, the moon wasn't just a celestial neighbor, it was a question, a riddle buried in dust and shadow, a monument to a history no human textbook had ever dared to include. If what lies beneath the moon is engineered, who or what put it there? The next discovery could change how we view human history itself. Signals from the deep. As if the revelation of symmetrical voids and engineered alloys beneath the moon's surface wasn't enough, what followed next from SpaceX's orbital mission was something even stranger: sound, or more accurately, a pulse. A slow, steady, low-frequency signal that repeated with clockwork precision. Every 143 minutes, the instruments on board SpaceX's probe detected a deep-frequency emission, then silence. Exactly 24 hours later, the cycle began again. This wasn't a one-off glitch. The readings were consistent across multiple instruments and confirmed by external observatories. These weren't geological tremors or magnetic hiccups. They followed a rhythm, one that suggested purpose, not randomness. In natural systems, patterns emerge, but rarely with such mechanical precision. The cadence of the pulses mirrored communication, structured, deliberate, and unsettlingly precise. Engineers decided to take a radical step. They converted the electromagnetic signals into audio frequencies, compressing the time sequence and boosting amplitude for analysis. What emerged was chilling. Harmonics layered on top of each other in ascending sequences. When slowed further, the tones began to sound eerily familiar, not in content, but in form. Audio engineers noticed the signals had structures resembling speech patterns, formants and intonation curves that are common in human languages. Curiosity gave way to expertise. SpaceX forwarded the audio data to linguists and phonetic analysts across major universities. What began as an acoustic anomaly quickly turned into a linguistic puzzle. Certain segments mirrored the spectral shape of known phonemes, those fundamental sounds that make up spoken language, and not just any language. Several shapes lined up with rare Sumerian phonemes, some used in the earliest known human texts. It wasn't just one match, it was multiple, and while skeptics argued the similarities could be coincidental, the frequency of the overlap grew with each segment analyzed. Then came the most startling development yet. Deep learning models trained on ancient and extinct languages were given access to the raw signal patterns. These models weren't looking for exact translation, they were scanning for symbolic logic, structure, repetition, and order. The result? Symbolic sequences, nested patterns, binary encoded intervals with a syntax. It wasn't gibberish. It wasn't static. Something, or someone, had embedded communicative order into the signal. While no definitive translation was offered, the AI detected hierarchies of structure similar to proto-writing systems. Think cave paintings that evolved into script. The signal wasn't just repeating, it was evolving in layers, almost like an instruction set. Was the moon speaking? And if it was, who or what was it trying to reach? At this stage, Elon Musk himself addressed the anomaly. He didn't claim it was alien. He didn't suggest ancient civilizations, but he pointed out what could no longer be denied. The moon was emitting a patterned signal that matched no known geological or magnetic phenomenon. He called it the most complex signal ever received from a planetary body. Scientists compared it to discovering a radio station broadcasting from inside a mountain on a planet that was never supposed to have any transmitters. Other experts raised more speculative questions. What if the signal wasn't meant for us at all? What if it was triggered by our probe, like a motion sensor long dormant until we crossed a certain threshold? Or worse, what if it's not a message but a response? And perhaps the most terrifying idea of all, what if these signals have always been there, too faint for 20th century tech to detect? Until now, these signals might not just be relics of old tech, they could be active. And what's more unsettling, we may not be the ones they're meant for. Geometry in the shadows. The moon's far side has long been a subject of curiosity, not least because we've barely seen it. Locked in eternal shadow from Earth's view, this hemisphere has often been dismissed as rugged, random, and less significant than the smoother plains of the near side. But SpaceX's latest mapping missions have changed everything. Using synthetic aperture radar and deep penetration imaging, Musk's team revealed something shocking: geometry. Not the scattered chaos of eons of asteroid impacts, but order, design. Across vast stretches of terrain, the radar revealed massive structures and alignments, hexagonal arrangements, perfectly spaced spirals, and grid-like impressions embedded into the landscape. These formations weren't geological in nature. Their angles were too precise, their spacing too consistent. Even more unnerving was their scale. Some of these formations spanned hundreds of kilometers, resembling microchip circuits, only magnified to planetary proportions. It was a haunting echo of two vastly different systems, the intricate architecture of modern computing and the sacred geometry found in Earth's oldest temples and monuments. From pyramids to ancient city layouts, these repeating ratios and structures have fascinated humanity for millennia. Now, we were finding their analogues on the moon. Coincidence or something deeper? Then came the bursts. As radar mapped these geometric structures, a secondary instrument picked up something even more baffling: gamma-ray bursts, brief, powerful emissions originating near the moon's equator. These weren't chaotic like typical cosmic rays. They came in triplets: 3 quick pulses, a pause, and then the cycle repeated, over and over. The emissions were so precise that they mirrored the cadence of a signal, not a spontaneous burst. More chilling was the source, a patch of lunar surface previously labeled geologically dead, a place with no magnetic activity, no heat variation, and no known reason to emit anything at all. Astrophysicists were stunned. Gamma-ray bursts are usually associated with neutron stars, black holes, or massive cosmic events, not from stable lunar terrain. The emissions were cross-confirmed by multiple Earth-based telescopes. They weren't artifacts or noise. They were real. The pattern held across time zones and atmospheric conditions. Something under the moon's crust was pulsing with precise energy, and doing so from a place we had long ignored. At the same time, interest surged once again in one of the moon's most mysterious features, the South Pole Aitken Basin. This is one of the oldest and deepest impact craters in the solar system, and it has always been odd. NASA's Grail mission had previously detected mass concentrations, or mascons, beneath it, essentially gravitational anomalies. But now, SpaceX's scans added a new layer of detail: sub-layered voids, disc-shaped hollows stacked beneath the basin like a spiral staircase descending into darkness. These weren't natural caves. They were too regular, too uniform. The spacing between each layer matched logarithmic intervals, patterns found in both engineered systems and organic growth models. Were these structural foundations, collapsed domes, or something even stranger, levels in a machine? The idea of the moon as a massive, ancient artifact was no longer confined to fringe speculation. It was becoming a legitimate hypothesis. So far, every new layer of discovery had shifted our understanding from geological to technological. But now, something else was stirring. As these structures and emissions were studied, researchers across neuroscience, quantum biology, and cognitive science began noticing patterns that didn't just suggest intelligence behind the moon's design, but a potential interface with us. What if the moon isn't just hiding secrets, but showing us a design? The next revelations take us beyond geology, into biology and the human mind. The moon and human consciousness. For centuries, people have associated the moon with mystery, madness, transformation, and dreams. Words like lunatic and ancient rituals tied to lunar phases reflect that connection. But what was once dismissed as myth or metaphor may now be backed by scientific data, and it's far stranger than folklore ever imagined. After SpaceX's probe detected those strange gamma-ray triplet bursts from the moon's equator, researchers noticed something odd. Not on the moon, but here on Earth. Sleep tracking data from around the world, sourced from consumer devices, clinics, and hospitals, showed a global anomaly. During the exact periods of these emissions, millions of people experienced synchronized disturbances in sleep cycles. And the strangest part, they didn't just wake up or toss and turn. They dreamed, vividly, intensely, and in ways that defied coincidence. Reports flooded in describing similar themes: spiraling corridors of impossible geometry, towering structures not of Earth, vast celestial chambers, or being observed by something ancient. Some described being confined, trapped inside domes or circuits. Others experienced visions of ascension, of reaching a threshold and crossing into a different form of awareness. These weren't isolated incidents. They came from people of all backgrounds, languages, and belief systems, and they happened in sync. It didn't take long for neuroscientists to take notice. Teams from major research universities began to cross-reference lunar data with sleep studies. The timing matched too closely to ignore. Could the moon, through these gamma bursts or other emissions, be interacting with the human brain, not through light or gravity, but through something subtler and deeper? Enter quantum biology, a niche but rapidly growing field. It examines how quantum effects might influence biological systems. It's already shown that birds navigate using quantum coherence and that enzymes can tunnel through molecular barriers. Could the human brain, a quantum organ by many accounts, be sensitive to lunar quantum activity? Some researchers propose a form of entanglement, that certain materials in the moon, perhaps the metallic structures detected by SpaceX or naturally occurring quantum materials, could have once become entangled with biological compounds on Earth. If so, the moon's emissions, however faint, might resonate with parts of our brain, especially during the vulnerable state of sleep. Meanwhile, a completely different branch of study began asking another question: is the moon storing something? Regolith samples from the Apollo missions, collected decades ago, were placed under new scrutiny using modern technology. When exposed to low-frequency electromagnetic fields, the soil emitted faint, microbursts of energy. These were not chemical reactions. The energy pulses had unique waveforms and displayed fractal patterns across the microscopic landscape of each grain. MIT researchers now believe the moon's soil could act like a memory material, a kind of natural data storage medium. Imagine the entire moon not just as a structure, but as a layered memory device, recording or replaying information when stimulated by energy, gravity, or even consciousness itself. What does that mean for us? If the moon is interacting with us, it might not be random. It could be reflective, responding to our presence and thoughts. Or it could be directive, shaping them. That line between observer and participant is suddenly thinner than ever before. And now another possibility emerges. If the moon affects our consciousness, if it stores signals and responds to triggers, what else might it be influencing? What about time itself? If the moon interacts with consciousness, is it just reflecting us or shaping us? The next question goes even deeper. Is time itself behaving differently on the moon? Time distortion and the final revelation. What if time, our most constant reference, our most trusted dimension, was not behaving normally on the moon? What if the final secret buried in the lunar surface wasn't structural or symbolic, but temporal? During one of SpaceX's orbital flybys, engineers monitoring the Starship probe noticed something deeply disturbing. The onboard atomic clock, an instrument calibrated to such a precise standard that it drifts less than a second over millions of years, showed a discrepancy. It had shifted ever so slightly when the craft passed over a narrow set of coordinates near the moon's southern hemisphere. At first, they suspected equipment failure, but redundancy systems showed no error. Ground-based atomic clocks synced with the probe confirmed that the anomaly wasn't on Earth's end. The time shift was real, subtle but consistent, a few milliseconds out of sync, and only when passing over that specific zone. Relativity was ruled out. The craft wasn't moving fast enough, nor was it passing through strong gravitational fields. This wasn't the time dilation Einstein predicted. It was something else, something artificial. The anomaly sparked quiet conversations in high-level physics circles. Theories emerged, some grounded, some speculative. Could the moon contain a region where space-time itself is being manipulated? Could there be an engineered field? A space-time distortion created by an ancient mechanism, a buried reactor, or even a dormant portal? The most radical minds turned to an old theory once considered fringe: localized time warping through artificial constructs. Concepts like stable wormholes, temporal shielding, or information reservoirs buried within space-time layers. Suddenly, these weren't science fiction, they were possible explanations. Then came another revelation. Inside the same region where the time anomaly occurred, material samples analyzed through resonance scans showed strange energy signatures. SpaceX flagged the data and forwarded it discreetly to a select network of global scientific institutions. One of them was CERN. CERN, typically focused on high-energy particle collisions, quietly convened a panel to examine the readings. Among them, traces that matched the theoretical behavior of quark-gluon plasma fragments. This is no ordinary substance. It exists at the edge of known physics, normally found only moments after the Big Bang or in particle accelerators. And it isn't stable in the natural world for more than a fraction of a second. Yet, here it was, locked in the moon's subterranean metallic structures, preserved somehow, isolated, intact. And if real, it meant something had either created it or contained it for eons. Why does that matter? Because quark-gluon plasma is theorized to possess the capacity to store information across time, not in space, but in temporal layers. It's the closest thing we know to matter capable of remembering the past and possibly projecting into the future. In short, if the moon contains this material, it might not just be an artifact. It might be a machine operating outside our normal experience of time, a structure that doesn't just exist in the present, but interacts with past and future events, a machine capable of transmitting, receiving, or perhaps managing information across millennia. And if that's true, then everything we've uncovered, from the voids to the signals, the dreams to the pulses, might not be random discoveries. They might be part of an unfolding program, a sequence we've only just triggered. Because if the moon distorts time, it's not just a witness to history, it might be writing it. Not just a silent observer in our night sky, but a vault, a mechanism, a node in a cosmic system we've only begun to perceive. If Elon Musk is right, then everything we thought we knew about the moon, its origin, purpose, and nature must be rewritten. And that rewriting has only just begun. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want more deep dives into the secrets of space, and watch the next video on screen to explore how other celestial bodies might be far more mysterious than we ever imagined. What do you think? Is the moon a natural satellite, or something far stranger? Let us know below.